So we're going to pick the smallest guy in the rifle squad to carry the biggest gun. Fortunately, 44 fire teams, they got a little bit smarter. But it's still, we got a guy like, say, a $125 here like that, and he's literally carrying half his body weight in just weapon and ammunition. Then to support this, we had 2 additional riflemen. By the latter part of the war, the one service rifle had become the primary combat weapon for the United States, which drastically increased our fire capability down the basic rifles action weapons that were being used on by all the other nationalities. Now, like I say, normally a rifle squad at this point then would have 3 fire teams assigned to it. Now, you'll consider the fact that any one of these elements can either be the base of fire or the maneuvering element. This gives a squad leader much more flexibility that he can basically use any of the elements as these maneuvering elements. As any one gets bogged down, they can immediately pick up the job as base fire and regular round, so increasing flexibility. More importantly, in confined spaces and, like I said, the heavy jungles of the Pacific Theater, that a squad leader now only had to worry about 3 people versus 12 people. And each one of these NCOs in charge of the fire team, if necessary, then could become an independent fighting force unto themselves. Now, supporting arms like that and supporting technology, just like we use today, had started during World War II. You saw the Sherman tank going by, like that. The use of armor in support had started in World War I and reached its pinnacle during World War II. We had learned what was going on in Europe. We were applying it very heavily in the Pacific, like that. Mobile artillery, bringing an armored vehicle in to get the fixed position, like that, became very advantageous over and above calling in just artillery. Another weapon, though, that I'm sure all of you have heard about and seen, is what you see here. This piece is a 2-2 flamethrower. By today's standards, it's antiquated, but at the time, it was a devastating weapon. It had a very specific purpose. And all the weapons you'll see here today, all the technology we have, the use of fire far precedes everything else here. From the Romans and the Byzantines over 2,000 years ago, the use of fire like that has been a very dominant offensive weapon. Technology was lost and it dropped down. It wasn't until the beginning of World War I. Technology had finally caught up and basically man-ported fire started coming into effect. During World War I in France and Belgium, first the Germans, then the French came up with functional flamethrowers. They were more of a psychological weapon at the time than they were a primary offensive weapon. But imagine, just like the tank or any other weapon that you've never seen before, if you're on the receiving end. And even though those early flamethrowers only had effective range of about 20 to 30 feet, and like that, had very, very limited use, if you were on the receiving end, whether that fire actually touches you or not, it's going to scare the hell out of you. So it did have its effect. By the beginning of World War II, surprisingly enough, though, the Mark II flamethrowers had not come into existence. We were still behind the power curve when it came to industrial development. The Japanese and the Germans, believe it or not, at the beginning of World War II, had better flamethrowers than what we did. We actually learned from them. When we landed on Guadalcanal in 1942, like that, the entire 1st Marine Division had a total of 40 Mark I flamethrowers. These shot straight gasoline, had an effective range of about 20 yards. Now the downside is, you're carrying 4.5 gallons of gasoline on your back. It's straight gasoline, you're having total burner product. You're going to have to get into 25 to 30 yards of your target, not to burn it, but basically cause oxygen deprivation that incapacitate whoever's in the bunker cave that you're trying to go after, waiting for that run on the ground to come back with a satchel charger and somebody there taking him out. This means for my young volunteer, and it's getting harder and harder to get him to volunteer anymore. He had to get that close to the enemy and keep constant flaming vision. While he's trying to do unto the enemy, they're trying to do unto him. Put yourself, human element, in the boots. You have the intestinal fortitude to stand up against the enemy, to do what he did. A lot of veterans of that period like that did. That's why we are today. By 1943, 1944, we learned from the Japanese. One of the biggest changes that you see with this particular weapon is the fact now we, for the first time, developed what we today call napalm. The gel gasoline, making it thicker, like that, almost shooting Jello through a nozzle, now gave the material the viscosity to be a much thicker liquid. As it's coming out the nozzle, it stays the liquid core in the center. So not entire product is burning in air, only the surface is burning. This increased range up to about 70 yards, and more importantly, it means when it hit the bunker, the flow would hit, spread, and continue to burn. That means the operator did not have to keep constant flame and pitch with the target. He could take cover. That still did not necessarily make it a user-friendly weapon. If you see this, young Marine here, good stalwart, is carrying 70 pounds on his back, most of it in liquid fuel. It's not stable because it's sloshing around. And into that, he's carrying a gun group, and with all that stuff, that 70 pounds, having to go up against the enemy and get orders to do it, his actual combat load, he will dump these tanks. If he held the trigger open completely, non-stop, would dump his tanks within 7 to 12 seconds. That's how much combat use. As you will see, it would have devastating effect against the enemy. The gun group like that has a basically igniter in the front, and it takes a well-trained operator to know how to use this thing to keep himself from getting burned. To give you an idea, any of you know basic physics? Coming out of this nozzle, this gasoline, if we're burning straight gasoline today for safety reasons versus gel gasoline, but even then, the nozzle temperature is going to be about 3,000 degrees. To put that in perspective, steel will start softening and changing shape at 800 degrees. The only thing that protects this operator is the strength, and hopefully the technology is up to speed. You're in short speed up, by the way? I like that to handle. But again, this was still just one tool in the overall arsenal. It would take a combined operation of this, the armor, and the grunt on the ground to complete the mission. See now, like I said again, I want you to suspend imagination just a little bit. This is a controlled environment, not structured training. The exact same thing we do today for politicians and people like that to show. It's not about getting cowboy into each other like that. Half speed, step by step, how we fire and maneuver against the enemy, how we use supporting arms and combined weapons to be able to take a position. As you do, just like today, reconnaissance is important, but usually the force SAT that's out there doing the reconnaissance is that instrument, that grunt on the ground, but it has to put in finding out where.
No worries, I just want to look at it.
The flamethrower is going to be against the pillbox over there.
Again, the squad leader would turn around. That quintessential fire team would usually be your point man, rotating through like that, looking at the terrain, looking for targets, and to trip the opposing force and have them give away.
If y'all got A1s lying up,
Just received that. First thing they're going to do is maneuver into position, constant fire maneuver. You do not want to stand still in a combat operation. As they move forward, laying down suppressive fire, the idea is keep the other guy's head down so he can't do what he does going on the hill. Support arms. Field phones, he's called in artillery. Problem is, artillery is an indirect fire weapon. And the technology at the time, although they were semi-accurate, very difficult. So at this point now, if they can't use indirect fire to take out the target, we'll get some hard armor, get some direct fire coming in. In the meantime, to keep the opponent's head down, protect their own Marines, we're laying down supporting fire with the 30 caliber machine gun and the small arm. Now the advantage of a tank, not only is it armored, although we had a hard time in the European theater because they had bigger tanks. In the Pacific theater, for whatever reason, the Japanese did not develop the technology as much as what we have. So a medium-weight Sherman tank became an unsupport Japanese. You stop their small arms, they use some of their artillery, and it now is a direct fire weapon. That means the gunner behind the trigger on that tank is looking right down the muzzle and can aim that gun right at the slot of the button. That is what the 60-year-old technology works. Again, the whole idea of this, a combined arm. The target's been expressed, it's still a hard target. Deep underground like that, we can't see the Japanese soldier that's in that bunker. We can't see our opponent. You can keep his head down. leader knows how to shift fire, and the ultimate weapon like that to suppress this hard position is now moving forward.
There we go. Oh man, I feel that from here.
Now you can see, even without gelling the gasoline, it's exactly fun. We're suppressing the people inside that fixed position until we can come in with a hard, fire, taking out.
I was just getting ready to think, where's the flamethrower guy?
Once the flamethrower's done, it's done. All their right squad get close enough now to the target to be able to check inside the bunker. They'll do a clear and sweep, make sure there's nobody left alive behind their backs, and do the advance and sweep across the ground. Now, as you see these Marines behind you going through this demonstration, keeping in mind this is only half speed of a normal combat operation. Now, we move forward another 60 to 70 years. In places like Iraq, where we just came out of, you're seeing the same basic tactical doctrine applied today. The technology may be much more advanced than the technology you're seeing here, but the Marines are the same. And what makes it work? Those people set the bar for us as United States Marines today. We're continuing to raise that bar, making it better for each one of you. Today, in places like Afghanistan and around the world, our Coast Guard, our airmen, our soldiers, our Marines, our sailors, they're using the technology we have today. But why are we overcoming all our adversaries? It's because it's us as a society learning how to use that technology, how to apply it. We as an American society today, not by the weapons that we use, not by the tools, but as a collective society, is who we are. Here and here, it makes us a great nation. And hopefully by understanding, as we talked about at the beginning of this, understanding where we came from, each one of you, especially you younger generation standing here, look at the veterans standing around you, even in the audience and like that. They made history for you. They made things better for you. You're going to be the next generation that hopefully will learn from both our accomplishments and our mistakes, and you're going to make it better for the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much. I want to thank Gunny and all of the Marine members of the historical company here for coming out today, including our flamethrower operator who was carrying all that weight on his back and waiting for the demonstration to begin. So thank them all. A nice round of applause. Great job. The tank we're bringing forward here is a Sherman tank. This is an M4A1. The M4A1 had a cast hull and a radial aircraft engine in the back. This is one of the earlier tanks in our collection. Early World War II construction in 1961. We've got a few upgrades over its life, but it's basically the same M4A1 that would have been the 1931, 1942. It's cool to have it as part of the collection. Let's do a drawing real quick. A lot of you